Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Speakers for Schools broadcast. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. Today's session should last for roughly around about 45 minutes and will include a presentation from our speaker before we later move on to a student Q&A. Questions for our speaker can be submitted via the Q&A function that you'll find just underneath the stream. You might have to scroll down to be able to see the Q&A box. But it's open now and it will remain open through the rest of the session. So we do encourage you to submit questions in response to anything that's said today, as we do love to hear from you. And that's the whole point of the session, is for you to get a chance to get those questions asked. So while you're here, keep them coming in. Now, if you find yourself having any sort of issues today with technology, things like that, please do let us know via that Q&A box, and one of our moderators will be on hand to help where we can. Now that's all done with, we'll move on to the main event today, which is our speaker. And we're very excited to welcome this speaker who's come from the prestigious St James's Place to talk all about social media and having a little bit of a presence, specifically on LinkedIn. So everybody, let's welcome Hannah Steiner, who is the social media and content marketeer at St James's Place. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Very excited for your presentation today. I'm sure we're all going to enjoy it, Hannah. I'm going to hand straight over to you. Just let me know if you need anything.
Great, thank you so much for that. And hi everyone, I hope you're having a good Monday so far. Thank you very much for joining me. So today we're going to have a bit of a chat about LinkedIn, and specifically how we can use the platform and build a bit of an online presence there. You're available to submit some questions, so please do that throughout the session. I believe there should also be a poll live right now that you'll be able to answer, which we'll look at in a moment. So before we get started, I thought I'd do a quick intro into me and why I'm here speaking to you about LinkedIn today. So my name is Hannah. I am 25. I was born in Nottingham. There I am, looking very cute, 25 years ago. I went to the University of Bristol and I graduated in 2021 with a degree in modern foreign languages, specifically French, Spanish and Italian. And then I joined St James's Place, which is where I now work today. I've recently had my 3-year anniversary, and I now work as a social media and content consultant. And what that means is I create lots of online digital content to try and recruit people to come and join St James's Place. Now, our poll is a little bit of a temperature check just to see how many of you watching currently have a LinkedIn profile or currently use LinkedIn. Charlie, I'm not sure if we've had any updates on that, or if we know how many people here are using their LinkedIn profile so far.
Yep, so let me just take a little bit of a look what we've had in so far. We've had tons of replies. We've got 13 so far.
Cool.
And we've had 54% have said yes, they do have a LinkedIn, and 46% have said no, they don't have a page.
Great. Thank you for that. That's really helpful. So hopefully today, everyone here will be able to get something out of today's session, whether you have a LinkedIn profile already or whether it's something you're thinking about setting up. I'm going to be sharing lots of tips and tricks for you to go and set up that profile or start to build on the presence that you already have on there. So without further ado, let's get started. So today we're going to look at 4 key things. We're going to look at what is LinkedIn and what do we use it for. We're going to look at how we create a really brilliant LinkedIn profile. We're going to look a bit about what makes a really good LinkedIn post and what are the kind of things that we should be posting about. And then finally, I'm going to share a few tips on the do's and don'ts of how to use the platform. If that all sounds okay, we will get started. So LinkedIn, what actually is it? So LinkedIn is a social media platform, and it's a place where people connect with each other in a professional way. So people might connect with their colleagues, with their peers that they work with, other people that they know in a professional setting, and they use it to network in a digital space. Now, for you guys, think of LinkedIn as a social media platform, but for things like school, career, and work. So you can connect with other people that you know from school, from other people that inspire you in particular fields or industries you're looking to get into. You can use it to show off your work. And also, first and foremost, it's a place where you can find a job. Now, you'll be at a stage in your education where you might be thinking about the next stage. You might be thinking about entering the world of work in the next few years. So it's a really good place to get started, because if you can start to build this online presence, when you come to that point of searching for a job, you'll be able to build on the skills and the knowledge that you already have based on your LinkedIn profile. So think of it like Instagram or TikTok, but in a professional standard, okay? Now, what actually is LinkedIn for me? This is the way I like to think of LinkedIn and the way that I like to describe LinkedIn. So it's a professional networking platform, like we've already said, but I like to think of it as your online CV. So like I just said, if you're thinking about entering the world of work in the next few years, this is a brilliant place to start building your online CV, where you can put in all of your experiences, all of your transferable skills that you've collected so far, all in a nice online digital profile where future employers can look at this and see exactly what it is that you've got on offer. And like I said, I like to think of it as the professional Instagram. Lots of people have a perception that LinkedIn might be quite professional. You have to be super polished on there. But actually being authentic is really important for LinkedIn. So I like to think of it as the professional Instagram, because it's still a place where you share updates about your life with the people that you're connected with. So we're going to get started with the first section of today's presentation, and that's all about creating a great profile. Now, this is somewhere where you can, like I said, house all of your experiences that you've collected to date, but it's also your first impression for potential colleagues or employees to look at. So the way that your LinkedIn profile represents yourself is really, really important. Now, what I've got here is a bit of a checklist of all the things that you need to include on your LinkedIn profile to make sure it's as complete and reflective of you as possible. So a couple of things here: your profile photo, your cover photo, about section, bio, and also all of your work experience. And I'm going to go through each of these bullet points now to give you a bit more information about what good looks like. So let's start with your profile photo. So bearing in mind, I just said that your LinkedIn profile is the first impression that potential employers or potential colleagues might get of you. It's really important that your LinkedIn profile reflects who you are, but in a professional way. Now, it is a professional Instagram, but think about how you can get yourself across to prospective employers in a professional manner. So I've got two photos here. On the left-hand side, these are both of me, by the way. On the left-hand side is a picture of me at a music festival last year. I've got a nice pair of sunglasses on. I'm having a nice bit of a dance. Great photo, nice one for Instagram. Unsurprisingly, it's not necessarily one that you're going to put onto your LinkedIn profile. On the right-hand side is my actual LinkedIn profile. We've got a professional headshot. It's high quality. It looks like me, I think. And it is a good reflection of who I am in a professional way. So when you're thinking about your profile photo, think about what that might look like. So you might use photos from a school presentation. You might use a passport photo if you've got a high quality one. If you've graduated from anything, you might use a graduation photo. So there's lots of different ways you can take photos from your life and put them onto your LinkedIn profile, but just make sure that it feels professional and you would be happy for a potential employer or a potential manager to see that. And that will help you make a good choice on what that profile photo should look like. Now, the next thing you have on your LinkedIn profile is a cover photo. So when you go onto your profile, you'll have your profile picture and then you have a banner type picture at the top. It's a bit like your Facebook cover photo. Now, there are lots of different ways to approach this. Generally speaking, you can either upload something that's relevant to you and your school or work life, or you can create something yourself. And I've got a few examples of ones that have done this really, really well to help you. So first of all, we've got Sophie Miller. Now, Sophie is a marketing professional. I follow her on LinkedIn because I work in marketing and I find her content really inspirational. And she's got a really bold and eye-catching banner that says, "I make social media simple." And it's got her contact details on there as well. So it's really bold, it's really eye-catching, and it really reflects everything that she does and everything that she brings to LinkedIn. So that's a really strong example of a good cover photo. Now, the next one I've got is Grace Beverley, who is the founder of Tala. Some of you may know who she is. She's a businesswoman. She's super successful. She's been in the Forbes 30 under 30. She's got something slightly different for her LinkedIn profile, her LinkedIn cover photo. She's just got a picture of some of her brand merchandise, some of the products that she sells. It's really simple. It's really identifiable to what she does because that she is the CEO and founder of Tala, but it really reflects exactly what it is that she's bringing to LinkedIn. So when you think about your cover photo, try and think of something that's really relevant to you and what you do or what you're aiming for. It's really high quality and it reflects who you are. Okay. The next section is your about section. Now, this is a sort of paragraph that sits just underneath your profile. And it tells the person looking at your profile a little bit more about who you are and what you do. And I've got a bit of a structure here for you. So when you're thinking about writing your about section, you will start with a sort of a one line to get the reader interested and to understand a bit more about you. Then you'll go on to say a bit about what you do. So if you're a student, what it is that you're studying, what you're thinking about going into, if there's any particular sector you're interested in getting experience in, this is the place where you can go and talk about that so people looking at your profile know exactly what it is you're looking for. Then you're going to have a few lines about what you're really passionate about. This might be something that you work on within your school or work, or it might be something that you do as an extracurricular. You sort of whatever sort of gets you out of bed in the morning and something that you're really passionate about. This is where you want to explore that a bit. And then finally, always a nice touch is what you like to do in your free time. Now, again, LinkedIn is a professional networking platform, but it's really nice when we sort of get a bit of a feel for the person behind the LinkedIn page. So whether that's hobbies, whether that's spending time with your family, whether that's extracurricular activities that you do, it's a really good place to tie this in. Now, point 3 and 4 might be something that you bring together, but either way, it's really important to showcase the well-rounded person that you are and all the different things that you do that bring this LinkedIn profile together. Okay, I've got a bit of an example here for you because it can be sometimes quite tricky to sit down and write an about section from scratch. But this is one that I sort of wrote up. This is about myself. I did languages at school, so I wrote my mock LinkedIn about section all about languages and moving into that sector. So we've got languages have always been my gateway to understanding different cultures and perspectives. So that's that interesting hook that we start with to get the reader interested. I'm a sixth form student currently studying A-levels in English, French and Spanish, and I love exploring how language shapes the way we communicate and connect with the world. So again, a little bit of information about who I am and what I do. Then we've got, in the future, I hope to pursue a career in translation, international relations or education, where I can use my language skills to bridge cultures. So again, a bit about what I'm passionate about and what I'm looking to get into. And then finally, I finished off with, outside of my studies, I enjoy creative writing, playing the piano and volunteering as a tutor for younger students. I'm eager to connect with others who share a passion for languages and global communication. So as you can see, I've tied in all of those elements that I'd spoken about. I've made sure that I've reflected who I am, what I'm passionate about, and also what I'm looking to get into. Now, if I was in sixth form and I was building out this about section, I've talked about that I'm passionate about pursuing a future career in translation and international relations. So when I eventually come to look for jobs in that sector, my LinkedIn profile will reflect that, and the people and the jobs that I'm applying to will also understand that about my profile. Please do take a picture of this. Please do write this down if you're looking for an example to follow, and you can slot in your information where necessary, because it will really help to get the ball rolling if you're struggling to get started. Okay, the next section is your bio. Now, this is a really short description of who you are and what you're into. It could say something like sixth form student studying A-levels. It could say something like student passionate about science and technology. It could say something like aspiring artist and designer. Whatever you really want your summary of your profile to be, this is where you write it in your bio. Now, I've got a few examples for you. I've got Ben Francis, who is the CEO of Gymshark. He is the CEO of Gymshark, and that's exactly what he's put in his bio. You might not have a job yet, but if you do, you could just put your job title here. Lots of people do that because then it's really clear about what people do. I have opted for a slightly different approach. So this is my bio. My job title is social media and content consultant. Now, that doesn't mean a whole lot to many people. Sometimes it doesn't mean a whole lot to me either. So to be a bit clearer about what it is that I actually do, I've explained it a little bit more in my bio. So on mine, it says that I do social media, storytelling, and creative content. So unlike Ben, who's chosen to use his actual job title, I've gone for a bit more of a descriptive approach. And you can take either one when you're thinking about what your bio is going to look like. Now, the main thing I want you to take away from creating a LinkedIn profile is, even if you don't have a job yet, this is a really good opportunity for you to talk about all of the work experience that you've got from your time in education so far. So whether it's school projects, whether it's any leadership roles that you've done, volunteering, clubs that you've been part of, presentations that you've done, there are loads of different experiences that you will have had so far that will have given you good transferable skills and experience to take forward. So mentioning these skills that you've learned in the process, it could be things like teamwork, it could be like things like communication, whatever it might be, this is the place that you can talk about. Now, a couple of examples of things that you might want to talk about on your LinkedIn profile beyond just any jobs that you've had. You might have things like events or careers fairs that you've been to. You might have clubs or teams that you're a part of, volunteering that you've done, extracurricular activities that you've been a part of, and qualifications that you might have. Now, this picture represents, for example, the Duke of Edinburgh. That's often something that you'll do throughout your time at school. It's a really good qualification to talk about on LinkedIn because it involves lots of different things like volunteering, like sport, like planning an event and an expedition. So these are the kind of things and the experiences that you will have that you need to start thinking about how to present those on LinkedIn. Now, you will have a place on LinkedIn where you can put all of this experience in one place. Now, whether that's through actual work experience or internships or weeks that you've done, this is the place where you talk about them, and you can add them with timestamps, you can add them onto your profile, and you can add specific skills that you've gained and learned from those particular experiences. Now, like I said, experience will look like lots of different things. We've got lots of different hobbies on here that you might want to include on your profile, because it's not just about having direct work experience, it's about having what we like to call transferable skills. So if you're part of a football team, for example, you will have learned lots of transferable skills from that, such as communication, team building. You will have learned things like taking responsibility, all these different things that you've gained from your experience so far that you can use to put onto your online CV and help you get to the next step when you start to think about the world of work. Okay, so the next section we're going to have a quick look at is the recipe for a perfect LinkedIn post. Now, LinkedIn posts are slightly different from other social media platforms. So where on Instagram or on TikTok, you're going to post memes or funny content or nice pictures of your day or whatever it is that you've been up to. LinkedIn is more about sharing things that inspire them, things that you've learned, things that you've been working on recently, things that you've achieved. So if you're not sure what you need to post, that's absolutely fine. Just think of it as a way to show off something that you've done recently or that's inspired you or that you believe someone else might be interested in, that you can share on your LinkedIn profile. Now, I work in social media. I work very specifically on LinkedIn, and I get this question a lot from the people I work with. What actually should I post on LinkedIn? And sometimes it's easier to tell people what they shouldn't post on LinkedIn rather than what they should. Now, we had about 50-50 people here who have a LinkedIn profile and those who don't. Those of you who have looked on LinkedIn, you might have a certain preconception around LinkedIn that it's got to be overly professional, that people often exaggerate their qualifications or exaggerate their experiences to make themselves look more employable than they actually are. We often see things like this. This is a bit of a meme of LinkedIn that says, yesterday I was walking to an interview, there was a starving dog on the road, I stopped to feed him and I missed the interview. The next day I got a call asking to come in to do the interview. I was surprised, but I went. Then the interviewer came in, he was the dog. So you get these sort of overly inspirational LinkedIn posts that feel basically a little bit silly. This is the kind of thing we want to avoid. Now, the kind of thing you could post about is, again, those things that we've spoken about over the course of this presentation. So any qualifications that you've got so far, whether that's something like Duke of Edinburgh, it might be your GCSEs, it might be your A-levels or your university degree, whatever that might be, any qualifications or achievements you've achieved, then this is the place where you keep a log of those. Events, career fairs, webinars that you've attended. For example, today, Speakers for Schools, you've attended a webinar on developing skills. If you have a LinkedIn profile, this would be a great opportunity to say, attended this webinar, thought it was great for X, Y, and Z reason, really looking forward to the next one, or something along those lines. School projects that you've worked on that have particularly inspired you or that you've learned something from, and again, any skills that you've developed from any experiences that you've done so far. Now, when it comes to actually building a LinkedIn post, I often talk about 3 key ingredients that you need for a LinkedIn post. The first one is a good reason to post. Now, please don't think that you need to post on LinkedIn 3 times a week if you don't have any ideas of what to post. Only really post if you have a really good reason to do so. There's no point posting for the sake of it because it will become really difficult to keep up. Secondly, you want a really punchy caption for your LinkedIn post. You want it to be well written. You want it to be digestible. Yes, it's a professional network, but remember, it is a social media platform, so you don't need to write long essays when it comes to your LinkedIn posts. They can be short and they can be punchy. You can use things like emojis. You can use things like bullet points to help break up your points. That's really beneficial as well. So something punchy and easy to read. And then finally, I always recommend that if you're posting something on LinkedIn, it's really great to have an eye-catching visual. Now, if we're using the example of posting that you've attended a Speakers for Schools webinar, you could always take a screenshot or something, or a picture of your laptop with the Speakers for Schools webinar on it. Basically, we process visuals way quicker than we process text. So if something has something to look at, we are much more likely to stop in our tracks and take a look at that content. So a good reason to post, a good punchy caption, and a nice picture to go with it means that you'll have a really well-rounded LinkedIn post and people will be much more likely to engage with it. Okay, I've got a few examples of good LinkedIn posts because I often think that's the best place to start, is finding other people that have done it really well. So this is my first example. This is a page called Girls in Marketing. Again, I'm really inspired by interesting marketing content, so I follow lots of LinkedIn pages that share that kind of thing. Actually, that's a really good tip if you're looking to build a LinkedIn profile. If you're sort of building it up from scratch, a really good place to start is to start connecting with people that you find really inspirational. So maybe it's people that you've worked with before, or sort of people that you look up to. So people like Grace Beverly, for example, who runs Tala, I really look up to her as a businesswoman. So she's someone I've followed on LinkedIn for inspiration. If you have a particular niche, so for example, I work in marketing, I follow lots of marketing pages like this. It's just a really good way to start getting inspired and seeing what other people are doing on the platform. So the reason this is a really good post is because it has all of those different things that we've just spoken about. So first and foremost, it's got 2 really high quality images. They're really eye-catching, they're really bold. It sort of draws you in and makes you want to read more. And then what we've got on the left-hand side here is a really well-written LinkedIn caption. It's structured, it's broken up into shorter sentences, so it feels really easy to read. It uses emojis, it asks questions. It says, but why did this campaign work so well? And then it has some bullet points. Another thing it does really well is it invites the audience to discuss and to talk in the comments. It says, did this campaign make you question your own gender bias? Let us know your thoughts on this campaign in the comments. It's also got some hashtags in there. Hashtags are really great to use on LinkedIn because it will flag up your content in wider discussions around those specific topics, exactly the same as hashtags work on TikTok or Instagram. And as you can see, it's got lots and lots of engagement. It's had thousands of people like it and lots of people comment as well. So it's a really well-rounded piece of content, and it's worked really well. Now, another example I've got is a bit more close to home for me. But I just thought this was a really good example of someone posting something really authentic on LinkedIn. So this is my colleague Mike. He's one of our business acquisition managers, and this was a post he shared a few weeks ago, which I just thought was really quite amusing. So this is a picture of him with a Paw Patrol umbrella, and the caption is, "Learning from today, always have an adult umbrella in the car when heading to the office. Thank you, Gigi," who is his son. If you know Mike, this is really on brand for him because he's always joking around. He's very playful, but actually he uses LinkedIn in a professional capacity to connect with other people. So even though it is an online professional brand and his online professional personality, you can see that he's a really authentic person behind that LinkedIn page because of the kind of content that he shares. And again, you can see it's got lots of likes, lots of comments, and it just went down really, really well. So there's an opportunity here. Yes, whilst you're sort of sharing your work experience and building a professional profile, you can still bring your personality to that, as long as you're doing it in a way that you would be happy for a future employer or a future manager or a future colleague to see as well. And I often think that's quite a good test for the kind of content you should and shouldn't be sharing on LinkedIn. Now, just to finish us off, I've got a few more tips and tricks in the form of some do's and don'ts on how to use the LinkedIn platform. So firstly, some do's. Do write like you speak. Try not to present yourself as overly professional because it won't be authentic to how you actually are. So write how you speak and make sure it's reflective of who you are as a person. Use hashtags and use emojis. It's a social media platform after all, so I really encourage you to do those things, especially hashtags, because it will flag up your post in lots of different discussions about that topic. Tag people in your posts. So if you're sharing content with other people, say you've done a group project with your peers, tag them in the post as well, because then it will share it onto their page as well. To tag someone on LinkedIn, it's really similar to Instagram. You type the @sign, you type their name, and then you click on their profile, and it will come up in your LinkedIn post. Use images and videos, like I'd said. Use something visual to help your content, and then post at peak times. Now, peak time on LinkedIn is between Tuesday and Thursday, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. So if you're going to share some content, that's a really good time to do it. You can also schedule content on LinkedIn so that it can post if you're otherwise busy at those times. Obviously, if you're at school in those hours, then you might want to do that at another time and just schedule it to go out in those peak hours. And then finally, the don'ts. So don't make posts too long because, again, it's a social media platform. So try and be as short and sweet as possible. Of course, it goes without saying, don't swear or use offensive language or bully other people. It is a online professional networking platform, but it is a social media platform. So anything that any conduct around normal social media also applies to LinkedIn. So do bear that in mind. Don't forget to talk to the reader. So like we saw with that post from Girls in Marketing, encourage comments, encourage discussion, encourage people to engage with you. And also you can engage with other people. So comment on other people's posts, add a discussion, add your opinion, add your thoughts, tag other people. It's a really good way to get that online conversation going. And also don't overdo it. If you're going to set up a LinkedIn profile and you're thinking about starting to post on LinkedIn, try not to commit to posting every single day because it will become really hard to keep up. You'll probably won't have enough content to share every single day, and you'll get to the point where you're sharing for the sake of it. And as we know, a really good LinkedIn post has a really good reason or purpose for posting. So try and bear those things in mind when you're thinking about setting up your LinkedIn profile. Now, that is pretty much it from me in terms of the knowledge and tips I was going to share with you. If you have a LinkedIn profile, there is a QR code on here to connect with me. If you have any questions, then we can take them now. Or you can connect with me, send them to me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to answer them there as well. And apart from that, that is pretty much everything from me.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, a very insightful presentation, and we do have some questions for you, so we'll get as many answered today as we can before the end of today's session.
Sure, go ahead.
Great. So we'll start off with one that's come in here, um, and it's: is it good to reach out to people on LinkedIn?
Yes, it's really good to reach out to people on LinkedIn. It shows a really great level of proactivity, and especially if you have met people in real life, a really good way to follow up with them is to connect with them on LinkedIn. So, say, let's take a scenario. If you went to a careers fair and you met someone from an employer that you're really interested in working with, but you're not quite at the stage where you want to apply for a job with them there and then, maybe you're in the middle of GCSEs or whatever it might be, a really good way to stay connected with them is to connect with them on LinkedIn, because then you have that connection with them. So at the point when you are ready to start thinking about what you might want to do, you know you've got that connection. So connect with as many people as you possibly can, as long as you know there's a good reason to do that. I always say the worst someone's going to say is no. The worst they'll do is not connect with you back. Most people, generally speaking, I've found, are really open to connecting with people on LinkedIn. So please don't be afraid to do that. It's a really good way to build that network.
As sort of a follow on from there, then we have this quick question, which is: um, I'm still deciding what I want to do when I'm older. How can I um, make my profile appeal to several different industries?
That's a really good question. I think the tip there is to keep it really broad. Well, there's two things. There's keep it broad and also lean on the experience that you've got so far. So no matter where you're going to go, you've still got all of the same experience to lean back on. So start by building up everything that you've done so far. So whether that's through clubs, volunteering, work or school projects, you will still have all of those same transferable skills. Now, the key here is that word that I just said, transferable skills, and that's where you can keep it quite broad, because no matter what industry you go in, they're all gonna want your transferable skills. So, say if you've been part of a club, you're on a sports team, and one of your transferable skills that you've learned from that is communication. Now, whether you want to go into technology or you want to go into marketing, both of those sectors will really rely on communication. So it's about thinking about your transferable skills and making sure they're really reflected in your LinkedIn profile, because no matter where you go, the reason they're transferable is because they transfer from one industry to another. So it's about building out your experience so that you reflect all of those skills that you have, so that when you do come to make that decision, you know that you have everything you need on there to showcase that you're the right person for it.
Definitely. And someone has asked here, I think it linked to what you were saying earlier, um, about what is the balance of professional, playful, and how do you get that balance?
That's something that I talk about a lot in my day-to-day job, is trying to get that balance right. Um, I I think the main thing that I think is most important about LinkedIn is to be authentic. So I think people often try and over professionalize themselves to make them seem more appropriate for LinkedIn, and I think that's not the right thing to do. Now, again, it's that point that the best test of this is, would you be happy for your future boss to see this that you're posting on LinkedIn? If the answer is no, then it's probably not the right tone for LinkedIn. If it's something that you think it's slightly more playful, it's slightly more authentic, but actually that would be something I would be comfortable for future employees to see, then that's absolutely fine. You basically just want to stress test it, that if you're in a future interview and they pull up a LinkedIn post and say, is this you? You want to be comfortable to say, actually, yes, and this is why I was talking about it, rather than saying, oh my God, yes, that's me, and I can't believe I've said that on LinkedIn. So that's often a really good way of thinking about it, is those kind of people will see that content. So just be aware that that's the audience you're working with. But at the same time, it's social media. It's not an essay. It's not an exam. It doesn't need to be super professional. You can use emojis. I use emojis all the time. If you look on my LinkedIn, you'll see that kind of content is on there. So yeah, it's finding a balance that feels authentic to you.
Definitely. I think definitely agree on the emoji use. Everyone uses them nowadays. It's odd to not have them on someone's profile.
Agreed, agreed.
um, Kind of leading on from the idea of being playful, then, someone's asked about, should I put my personal hobbies on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. Yes, it's something that I always think helps to build a picture of who you are beyond just sort of your school hours. Um, it's something you can put in your about section. So you can say, out of school, you can find me on the football field, you can find me at school orchestra, whatever it might be. And it's also, if you're looking at building out that experience, a lot of your skills that you will have accumulated so far will be from your extracurricular activities. You know, if you're in school, you might not have heaps of work experience just yet. So actually, it's those different extracurriculars that you'll lean on to build out those transferable skills. Obviously, you want to be sensible with that. You know, you're not going to put your locations and your times of where you're doing these activities, because after all, it's a social media platform. So, you know, be sensible with it, but 100% talk about your hobbies on there, because it shows who you are as a person.
Definitely, it's that unique thing about yourself, right?
Exactly. I mean, I always think about it. If you're, it's almost the online equivalent of building a university or job application. You know, all the things that you would put onto your CV to help sell yourself to a future employer. These are all the things that you can also talk about on LinkedIn. So it's a good way to compare them.
So someone's asked an interesting one here about endorsements. It's, are LinkedIn endorsements important?
Yes. So that's not something I'd actually explained, but I can explain a little bit about those now. So LinkedIn has two extra functions that you can add to your profile. One of them is recommendations and one of them is endorsements. So a recommendation is basically a review. So you can go and leave a review on someone else's profile of someone who you've worked with. And likewise, someone you've worked with can leave a review on your profile that basically just says, this person's really great to work with for X, Y, and Z reasons. Again, really good way to build out your profile, gives a bit of credibility. So rather than saying, I'm really great and here are all the reasons, it just gets someone else to say that for you, which is obviously always a really nice thing to have. Now, an endorsement is when you state on your LinkedIn profile that you have a certain set of skills. So on my profile, I've stated that I've got skills in social media, in marketing, in creative content, because that's what I do for a living. Now, anyone that I work with who can basically vouch for me and say, yes, she's got those skills, can go onto my profile and endorse them. So, for example, Charlie, I might say on my profile that I have skills in presenting. And after today, you might think, do you know what, Hannah? I think you do have skills in presenting. So you could go onto my LinkedIn profile and endorse it. And it basically just says what I'm saying about myself is true. So if you can get these recommendations and endorsements, then please do. Often I say it's sort of a bit of a tag team approach. So you might get your peers or your friends or people that you've worked with. You can go leave them a review. They leave you one back. You endorse them. They endorse you. It's a bit of a win-win. It's always a good way to approach it. So yes, in answer to your question, that was very long-winded, but yes, endorsements are a good thing.
Definitely. Thank you for explaining that and also the two different types. And it's good to know the difference between the two, I think.
Yeah.
Is there one, just as a follow up, do you think one should be more peer review and one should be more professional? Or does it matter? Could I, for example, get a school friend to go, yes, she's really good at a skill, transferable skill to do with a sport or something on either one? Or should they, is it more kind of, is one more casual, one more professional? What do you think of that one?
So an endorsement is literally it's almost like a like button. So you just click endorse and then it just boosts it. Whereas a review, you actually have to sort of sit and type out an answer. Generally speaking, a review is best if you've worked on a specific project together, because then you can say, oh, this person is great at communication because we worked on this project and they communicated X, Y, and Z, rather than, oh yeah, this person's my mate and I think they're fantastic. So it gives you a bit more of a hook to really say why that person's good to work with. Whereas an endorsement's quite a quick win because it's almost just like a click button to say, yeah, confirmed. That's absolutely true.
Interesting. Good things to be aware of,
Yeah,
and what they should be doing. We don't want to go out and have every single one of your 30 friend group in your class start kind of endorsing each other, otherwise it might look like a bit
exactly.
too much.
Exactly.
Choose wisely.
Exactly. Do it small, quality over quantity, I would say.
Yeah, definitely a good approach. We have time just for a couple more questions before we have to end today's session. So we're going to go with this one next, which is, do employers actually look at skills and certificates?
Yes, they do. Now, the reason I know this is because I work in recruitment, and in recruitment, we use LinkedIn all the time to recruit people into our business. And when I tell you, people really do look at everything on your LinkedIn. They'll look at your experiences, they'll look at the skills associated with them. So it's a really good place to get that up to scratch. Often, even if you email a CV separate from LinkedIn, people will often go and look at your LinkedIn anyway. So even if you have a LinkedIn that you haven't looked at in a while and you are starting to apply for jobs, it's worth bearing in mind that people will probably go and search you up on LinkedIn as well. So having them both side by side and having them matched up to what you're emailing out as a CV is really, really important. What I often do is I encourage people to include their LinkedIn on their CV, because then it shows that it's all sort of linked in together. It's all linked in together. There we go. It's all part of the same thing. So people do genuinely look at them. So it is important to make sure they're up to scratch.
Definitely. And when you enter the working world, and you find out you've got a new colleague who's going to be starting with you in 2 weeks, the first thing you do is go to LinkedIn and type their name in and find them, connect
It
with them,
is
and look at
true.
their profile.
It is literally the workplace equivalent of doing a quick Instagram stalk. That's what we all do it. And, you want to make sure it's reflective of who you are.
Yeah, definitely. For our final question, then, we have, what are some of the most common mistakes that young people tend to make on their LinkedIn profiles that should be avoided?
I think the main one for me is that point around posting for the sake of it. We see a lot of that, and also I hate to bring it up, but AI. We see a lot of people sort of regurgitating AI generated LinkedIn posts. I'm a big believer that AI is a really great tool, but it can't replace you as a person. And actually, if you write LinkedIn posts on things like ChatGPT, it's really obvious, and we'll know about it. So even if you think you're being really savvy, we will. So I think when you're thinking about posting on LinkedIn, yes, use things like ChatGPT for inspiration. You might say, "Can you give me 10 ideas to post on LinkedIn over the next 12 months, whatever it is?" But don't get them to write your captions for you. Don't get them to write the posts for you, because it will become really obvious and it just won't sound like you. I think that's the biggest thing, is if you're going to post on LinkedIn, which I encourage you to do so, it needs to sound and feel like you, because otherwise there's just no point in doing it. So I think that's one of the biggest pitfalls I see, is people overcompensating, using AI to sort of sound more professional than they really are. That's something I would watch out for.
Yeah, definitely. And it's that sort of, say you hire someone for that voice and then they don't bring that voice to their work, it's very clear then that you've been
Exactly.
sold something that isn't real.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, before we kind of end today's session, as we are running out of time, do you have any final thoughts and feelings that you'd like to share with our viewers as we say goodbye?
So my last point and my last piece of advice to you is to get started sooner rather than later, because regardless of what industry you go into, at some point you'll probably have to use a LinkedIn profile. So the sooner you can get going with it, the better, and just give it a good go. And if you need me, reach out to me on LinkedIn, drop me an email, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for joining us today, Hannah. It's been wonderful having you on, and definitely, hopefully, we're feeling more confident with our LinkedIn profiles moving forward.
No problem. Thanks very much for having me.
All right. Okay, everyone, that's all we have time for today. So, a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in. Great to see so many of you engaging with our polls today. Hopefully, you enjoyed that little bit at the start, really interesting. And hopefully, you've taken a lot from these questions and you're feeling more aware of what you should be doing and how you should be presenting yourself on your LinkedIn profiles. That is it. So, hopefully, you have a wonderful rest of your day and a good week, and fingers crossed that we'll see you next time. Bye for now.